reactions and thoughts. Do you feel this is useful for an internet call like this one? So I invite you to whoever wants to share how does this feel in your body and in your mind.
I was feeling great.
Was just
And
perfect.
and I think this is a very good initiative. Like starting a call like this, you connect with yourself and you are more centered on the call. Like you, uh, even if you, I was thinking, I mean, when I was there, I started to think on other stuff and I was like, oh, refocus, right? And I don't know, it felt great. Thanks, Letty.
Great, yes, it's something we are not used to. A lot of times we just start to go directly to the task at hand, and we kind of forget how do we feel in our bodies. So great that you feel that. Anyone else?
Yeah, I also liked it. Um, for me, it's great because sometimes we come from several calls, and taking that time helps us to like get grounded again. And I felt really great.
Yeah, it's the same kind of idea, but I've been, whether it's meetings or when I'm not otherwise occupied, I'm usually listening to some podcasts. So having some just silence every once in a while is good.
It was just wonderful, Letty.
Yeah, that's great. Yes, because you share it. Sometimes we are just jumping from one thing to the other, and then we don't have time to stay here for a second with ourselves. Sometimes just doing that for 2 minutes, it changes you completely. So I'm glad you appreciate like the value of doing this. And yeah, I think we're experimenting in these channels with lots of new things, like trying to, well, how to explain that? Trying to do so many different things and still using all ways of doing that, even though we are trying to be a super breaking, advanced, visionary people, but still we need to come back to these other basics practices that are not maybe very valued in our hectic times, like uh, being super productive, being super decisive, being there for anything that comes up, and sometimes just being mindful of what we are doing, even just breathing for a minute or just staying with your body and yourself in what you are doing. It adds a lot of value in our lives, in our calls, and in our minds. And I really like this because when you just saying these practices and you just give value to this, you start to think about everything you do in your daily life. So we are here talking to these other people that we just got to know through the internet or through these channels or through these experiments, and then you realize that even though that is a little bit weird because we are here just trying to connect through these channels, you start to see value in everything you do, and you're trying to embed your life with a different meaning. And I guess what we are trying to do here as well is to just put these puzzle pieces together and to be brave enough to stay with other people, to share our experiences, and still be compassionate enough to also know that the other is not really the other. So I'm talking to you and I'm not feeling like I'm a super separate person or mind talking to people that I don't know. I feel like, I feel in my body also what you're going through, right? And if we manage to create these spaces between ourselves, I guess we have like a lot of highway being constructed and being built. And what I like about this is that we manage also to share a space with others, with ourselves at the same time, and being able to just to highlight this kind of spirit. And I think this kind of knowledge or this kind of stories, which we are trying to embed all the work that we are doing in this organization and in all the things we are trying to accomplish. Remember, we are not separate. We are still going through these times, which are still affecting us a lot. So coming to our bodies, still only doing this breathing exercise, checking in with a different mind, with the people you encounter in your daily life can work wonders. So yeah, only a little reminder about that. If you feel stressed, we are still going through these emotions. Our bodies, our minds, our emotions are still very much impacted by all these things. So yeah, don't forget to check in with your insight, but at the same time, remembering that you are not separate from the people you are talking to, you are working with, and I think this community is a very good reminder for all of us. And I invite you also to share the things you are working right now, which are relevant to this group, maybe, and to all the proposals and thoughts we are sharing here. Maybe coming back to the topics we share most of the days, because those are great reminders of the work we are doing, trying to embed ourselves with this ethical view of the world, which is mainly based in compassion, which is ahimsa, non-violence, which is maybe a value I would express for communities, for these communities and all the communities along the world, which are facing difficulties in upholding these values, because we are still trying to overcome this survival mode perspective in our life. So maybe we can share a little bit about that, and coming back to our methods and linking that to, so Cisla, go ahead, linking that to our work.
Yeah. So basically, did I understand right? Like, how do we overcome the survival mode, running from one meeting, saving the world, one meeting at a time, and instead just connect to the people with whom you can, not just grow, but grow healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And shape this new space. It's super important to me at this time. I'm currently at the last week of the Ecosystem Life Flows course, which I started last year around this time, and it's super interesting to see. It's the third cohort. I've met so many people who just entered this space through this course, and again, it seems to be the theme. I really want to figure out what it is that brings us together, and also I want to figure out what is the role of technology or technologists in this very special community, which is very, very different than the previous live tech community I come from, like the machinist, the mechanist, the electrification, automation, digitalization. That was the Vision 2020 of Siemens. That's where I come from. And just be here and with you guys. I really want to work this out. What does it mean to figure out the ethos of a group that has found each other over the internet, in Discord servers and Twitter, it seems to share a vision, right? And how are we going to learn the ethical engineering side of things, and how are we going to make it accessible to really everyone who wants to participate, not just engineers, but as you know, the people coming from all petals of the flower. And as Federico, he's a math philosopher, reminded me again, even the crypto economics flower that I love to flash, it's just, yeah, the scientist perspectives, right? But we want, or I wish that whatever we're building here is really accessible to anyone who wants to participate. So shall I are we going to make a round? I think it's really interesting. Sebastian, Sebastian, do you want to share?
Yes. Sure. Thanks for the yoga thing. That was like the opposite of a coffee. Like, like chilling anti-coffee exercise. It was great. Can you hear me? Yeah. In terms of community and cooperation, it's, theories are all great and all that stuff, but it really comes down to people meeting and trying all the little things that come around, egos and desires and this and that, and so theories are amazing, and then we have our own little deficiencies that come around that make the theories attainable or unattainable, and it's hard to do it with this technology to actually make progress in that sense, and so that's something that's interesting that maybe those exercises will help. I'm currently right now in a research group in the balancer group, and that's quite intense, very technical, very very geared towards speculation, and I'm not enjoying it too much because it's just like, hey, let's all get Lamborghinis tomorrow. And it's a sense that there's a lot of magnetism towards that Lamborghini mentality again. It's a bit, but then in groups like this, you see that it's the opposite somehow. So it's an interesting balance happening everywhere. Anyway, who's next?
I can take it.
Chewy.
Thank you, Sebastian. Um, I, one of the things that I like the most about this community is like coming across stuff like today. Like, okay, so we're gonna start this differently. We're gonna speak about um, something that made you feel in a certain way, or we're gonna be quiet for a minute and do like an exercise. Uh, and and I really feel that it's uh, like, so sometimes it's just like one more meeting, right? Or just like one more activity, but it's like, even like in real life, as Shebnem said, like you don't come across these things. Like in I I usually speak here in Omega, like a lot about the entertainment industry and a lot of stuff that happens there, and I just can't think of any film produced I've heard of, or maybe like music event put together where this is something important. Like, okay, so before we start, we're all gonna like gather together and we're gonna dedicate this time to something that is important to all of us, but not a lot of people like get or talk about. And just in general, like in things in this space, I can't see it happening another way. I don't know if it's because of the distance or it's just like because we're finding new ways to come up with better like culture to share like, truly important things. And I mean, maybe the difference is that like there is like what we give value to is much more relative in this space. So maybe we feel more open to talk about these things. Um, it's like I still don't know what it is. Like I couldn't point my finger at something specific, but I just love it, and it drives me to think that like I would love to at some point like work and come up with like a project in entertainment industry, but like definitely something that I'm 100% sure that I don't want to do is like do it the same way as before, because this is better and it's just like yet like unexplored, and it makes me very passionate in different levels to come together with people and come up with new ways to do this stuff. Um, I I find it exciting, and yeah, it's like as soon as I learn something, I love to think about how to apply it in one of these areas, because it changes. Like you can't help it uh, changing in big ways. Uh, well, that's it. I'll pass it to Didan.
Thank you, Chewy. Yeah, I don't really know exactly what to say. Like I'm a little fuzzy right now. Changing some personal habits, so in the interim, I suffer decreased performance, but that's okay too. But more to the point of what we're all doing here. Yeah, I'm just really inspired by everybody who I've observed and participated with, connected with the TEC, and uh, just really coming up with better, like more, not necessarily just better, but just like more thought out, more process to all the great problems that really want to be solved. But so I'm just happy to help with that in whatever way I can. But I do feel like I'm still just kind of learning the lay of the land. I will pass. Livy?
Hey, I think the question got a little bit diluted for me. Is it
I
our
didn't know either. I was
impressions?
just winging it.
Is it our impressions in the community or in the tea ecosystem in general?
It's a check-in in general. So wherever it comes up for you, you can share here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been feeling that things are moving a lot in a very swarm type of pace. That feels like, actually yesterday I was doing the stakeholder interview with long tail finance folks for the TE Academy course, and it was so great to be questioned. I feel like answers come in such a bright way when someone asks you a question. And then just talking to them, understanding like the complexity of everything we're doing and how the loss of control, it's actually the most interesting part of it, because we're talking about distributing power um, and also distributing knowledge and information, and seeing how different people pick up on different parts of the processes and can communicate with each other and still um, make sure we have a coherent understanding of everything, even though we can't have an overlook into everything that's happening because it's too much. Um, yeah, I think that's very, very beautiful and very noble from everyone that is involved in this ecosystem. And we were also talking about the difficulty of understanding when one project ends and another one begins, and how this is like the boundaries that we've been sharing, and how ephemeral or like how invisible they are, and that so many times projects overlap on top of each other or beside each other, and then you start to see this multidimensional um, ecosystem that is so rich, and then because it's not obvious, we have to go so much deeper into questioning and in our relationships with each other to try understanding um, all of the values that are just floating in the system, everything that each one is bringing in, and also this praise analysis that is happening made me think of like how this is an advanced problem of a diverse community, because most of the times this problem doesn't even exist, that we have like too many points of view, and now we have so many points of view and so many perspectives, and wanting to be fair with all of them is such a challenge, but like an amazing challenge to have. It feels like a step up in the um, yeah, in any type of like sharing resources with each other, which is also great in the perspective of a commons. um, yeah, I think there's a lot of uh, explosion of things in my mind that I don't know if they're making sense, but I will pass to so sister.
Well, then I pass it on to Nate, who joined after some time now.
Yeah. So I guess, the amazing thing about the community and in particular like our practices is that is our ability to kind of remove the self on behalf of the collective. Um, like Livy said, we have a lot of different opinions, and as we grow, there's more of those signals that come out to decision making, and how we aggregate those signals into, purposeful action is really quite amazing, and to have, the small group being that unit of transformation for all, the entire commons is pretty impressive. And I think at the end of the day, that's, what we're striving for. And to have these kind of open spaces for everybody to voice those opinions and to produce those signals is extremely important. And it's really one of the benefits of a kind of a decentralized community architecture that we're building. And I think as long as we keep, uh, being open and keep being vulnerable and keep exposing those ideas and those processes to each other, that it will kind of form naturally. And I think it's a huge benefit to our overall productivity that is not um, you know seen as the traditional way of doing things. And I think that is going to be a kind of a lasting legacy of this initial commons that we're producing here, and could serve as a format or a roadmap for other communities to follow. And so I really think that it's really special that what we're all doing here. And yeah, uh, I will pass it to Katie Suga.
Thank you. Sorry. Can you all hear me?
Yep, we can.
Yes, we can.
So just super excited.
We don't hear you now.
Really hard for me. So I've been listening in, and it's hard for me to participate because I have two little tiny kids. They
Having trouble hearing you, Katie.
Okay, take it to sister.
Katie, you're muted.
Just trying to pass back because I think I have a bad connection.
Okay. Wait a second. Septimus, do you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still learning a lot, but like lately, I was thinking, like all these things we're creating in here, it can apply to other stuff outside, right? And yeah, I was thinking like there is a lot of communities in gaming, and like especially one I care a lot, like it's the Heroes of the Storm. And I believe like the tools we're creating here can help because like there is a lot of people like who cares about this community, but since like the like big bosses remove the money from there, so there is the competitive scene is a bit dead. And yeah, I was feeling like like creating some models. I'm not sure like if the commons or the gardens model like fits the best, but yeah, I'm still learning in here. And maybe something I would like to do in the future is like talk with Blizzard and do something related to that. And yeah, like what we're doing here, it's amazing because we're connecting like both sides. Like for example, I mean, even me, I was talking with Sam all the time, and like I never fully understood like how this system functions until we start creating the parameters and all that stuff, and it's super cool. Like everyone from the like even a dude like me who knows very little about the coding and stuff like that, I feel I can do it, right? And it's a very nice feeling, and it's amazing. And I'm not sure who hasn't gone, but I'll pass it back to you, so sister, to pass it to someone.
I haven't gone. And yeah, this is something that I have been thinking these past days, and that somehow we all have chosen to be here and like facing the challenges that we are facing, because like the path that we have taken is the one that has brought us here. And that for me, I feel that what I'm doing is super special, because I have always thought that technology and the value of technology is the way that humans use it. I have always thought that you can like use a screwdriver to stab someone or to like make a table, and that is like the difference because that humans can give to the value of tools. And I feel that right now we are with super amazing tools, super fast tools, but we also need this ethical factor to make the best of them, because yeah, it's the idea, I think, is to put technology to favor of humankind, so that we can all live a better life. And maybe technology itself, it's not going to do that, but with a good of use of technology and the development of humans, we can improve and put into practice. Like using technology for the well-being of all, and like also I think that sometimes like small frictions between humans affect like the achievement of goals, and that's why I feel that it's so important to have and to promote conflict management in all these kind of spaces, so that also like the goals that we have as a group don't get like we don't distract from the goals that we have set because of the problems that we have. I think that that's important. We cannot let like conflicts stop us from achieving our goals, and yeah, and it's always good to incorporate that and that mentality into these kind of societies and into these kind of communities. And for me, that's super great. So I feel super motivated about the work that it's been done here. If someone else want to share something or continue with the topics, the call.
Yeah, I will. I will take it. I think it's like very inspiring to be in this kind of spaces as well, and being able to somehow trying to give the best for ourselves and saying, okay, we can still continue building things and staying with people at the same time, and being able to manage these paradoxes as well, because we all come from very different maybe worlds, not only in terms of professional experiences, but also in this myriad of ways of being and living in different cultures at the same time. And I think it's very inspiring that we are collectively creating these kind of structures and frameworks to be open about sharing as well, and not being afraid of I don't know, popping in this channel and this call and doing a 1 minute exercise and being fine with saying, okay, I'm coming from a super different meeting. I'm with my head in a very technical task, and indeed you see value in staying in a place where maybe we're discussing so paradoxical things. At the same time, we're trying to put a name on things still and label these things and manage our own internal dialogues. And I think we are being very truthful to our mode of being as well, as saying, okay, I really don't understand why I'm here in this community or how I came to be here, but still we are just tapping into this collective intelligence and knowing that there is a specific reason or purpose in being here, and we acknowledge that at the same time. And we don't enter this kind of duality thing and saying, okay, I don't know what I'm specifically doing here, but still I find the value. And I think as long as we can just stay with that feeling, not only in this call, but maybe in these troubled times or in a specific challenge or problem or activity you do in your daily life is gonna increase exponentially all the work you are doing in these commons or in the communal things that happen in this time. So I find like the work is in the doing. So we are trying to connect lots of different worldviews, lots of different perspectives, lots of modes of being in the world, and the real work is in practice and in walking the path, and that means being here sharing honestly, and being open to learn from the others, and not being stuck in these old modes of thinking, which is thinking, is not being. And remember that if anything comes up in your mind and you find this resistance, or you're hearing a call and you keep thinking, what's the next thing you are gonna do? What's the next thing is gonna happen in your life? What's the next thing even you are gonna say? It's like you are not in your true purpose. And well, just being aware of that is gonna help your specific thing, your life, and those who are near you. So I find this doing and this practice and this kind of community is exponentially helping all of us, and at the same time helping all of the fields we are touching and we are trying to make sense of by the way of doing and by the way of being. And I find this very inspiring. I think that's why we are also here, to find this purpose, which is happening all the time, at the same time that we are trying to, yes, maybe leave some marks in the sand for the others who are going to come after us and who we are working with right now in this channel. So I find that that is inspiring to me as well, and I want to share this. Anyone who feels inspired to say something about the work, or any thoughts about connecting, or maybe it's going to be useful if we acknowledge as well, and that's what is happening or that's coming through me, that it is not everything very rosy, and that there are going to be challenges, and we still face this resistance inside ourselves and in the projects we are doing. So I find that as a way of that there are still things that we have to work on internally in our own ways of thinking, and saying, okay, how do I relate to the people I am encountering in my own family, with my friends, with my colleagues, and at the same time we are trying to do this rephrasing work, this conciliation effort, this non-duality thing with all the knowledge and all the situations and all the commons which we encounter. And I find this like it's a double-edged work and non-duality thing that we do at the time we speak, at the time we encounter others, and at the same time we are challenged by these things. That's normal. But that's the beauty of the work, and that's the beauty of trying to put things together. Sernam?
So I was just thinking I could use more help with that. So
Well,
that's something where that's something where I feel like I'm constantly failing at that, because it is so tough, making sense at this speed, keeping things together, and really, really figuring out what frameworks should we be using, what are we even talking about, especially now in this group. It's figuring out the ethos of token engineering, and making ethics in engineering accessible to a wider range of community. I keep asking myself, for example, okay, it's so easy in a project to succumb to the majority, or to whoever is in the power chair, and those power chairs exist, even if it's decentralizing project or what have you. It's still these human games that happen. Also, what Sebastian mentioned, for example, that he sees numbers and the talk about numbers taking over. So I really want, or wish, and also for myself, I really need some sort of guidance or a program, and that's maybe something, I would like to propose, and maybe we can get together during the next weeks, if any one of you has time and interest, like, can we actually build something like a program or content, work on it together, but then also make it accessible to people? What does it mean to make things differently? What does it mean to bring in the ethical dimension into a very technology-driven domain? What would you think about that? And by the way, I took notes because I was so inspired. I know it wasn't, maybe was it planned? I don't know, Letty, but I took notes, and I think it's a very beautiful input to our manifesto. So I'll share that in a moment. But since we only have 10 more minutes or 9 more minutes left, I would really like to ask how you think about that. How can we actually make this more of a, like, that we among each other build up this knowledge and also share it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, and I think we have been debating around this kind of what's the framework which is gonna work best in the interest of putting up these educational programs or any kind of program that comes up from here. And I guess there's gonna be value in any content that we can put through, but at the same time, I acknowledge that is not a good perspective to think or to say, okay, I'm gonna do this super broad thinking and I'm coming up with the best idea to do that, because that's putting you in a perspective that you're trying to solve a very specific need. I guess there's going to be value, and that is super difficult. We have been thinking about what is the theory we want to do that, and we came up with the survey, and we said, okay, this is from a very I perspective, and so we are forgetting that we are in this, again, these 8 worldviews and these 4 universal aspects you can put yourself in. And where I feel now is that this is also a collective effort, and it's difficult to not be biased in any way. So from an individual perspective, so any of you thinking what I'm doing here, what I'm going to do, and what is the benefit of doing this, we are still thinking from the I perspective, and we are thinking of the others like, okay, if this is a physicist which is coming to here because there is like these new frameworks to be working in decentralized organizations, and I'm gonna get value of this. This is gonna be like one framework, and we put this in these user personas, and this it's difficult. And only being aware of that, it's something we are gonna be experiencing through all the meetings or all the time you're gonna spend here. So I think the skills and the capacity of each individual person are also different, and we have to value those. And maybe there is no value in all the people like going through the same knowledge and going through the same methods. So I see there is value also in difference. So we can come up with lots of different ways to do this. Like, okay, only putting up this the integral theory from Ken Wilber, and you go through that, or you go to Vedanta, which is the final knowledge, and then you come back to this Omega call about how we do the ethos. And it's super paradoxical. And then you say, okay, and how do we put this in a context and educational way? This is the education per se. Just being able to come up and say, okay, what do you feel about this? And I come up here and say, yes, I feel like this. And this is value as well. How do you put that into an educational program? Your experience, your personal experience in being here that's you. That's your experience. It is not applicable to anyone else.
I was going to say that I think what you both said, that the doing is in the figuring out is in the doing. It's important because that's what's gonna decide any of this. And all the theories are again very great, but the idea of theories is that there's something attainable, some fixed model that's gonna work, and that's the threshold we have to cross right now. That we have to move away from fixed ideas that will solve something, because that's we are crossing that threshold. We're leaving that behind us and moving into something that's completely dynamic, and there will never be anything fixed. And we come from 200 years of indoctrination that there's going to be something, so a solution that's fixed and stable and you can actually achieve it. And we know that's not going to be the case. It's going to be something, a moving target that's dynamic and is going to be figured out by people and solving their individualities and all these things. And there's no really, like, the moment you say, oh, here it is, it's no longer it, because it already moved and changed. So we have to, it's a really hard thing to do, and it's not something an individual can do. It can only be done by a group of people, because someone will find something and will say, oh, this works for me, great. But it will always be changing when you put someone else in it. So it's a very hard thing to do, what we're trying to do here, because it's basically some figuring out a living organism. And we come from very static thinking of scientific thinking. Okay, here is the code, and this is going to be it, and blah.
Yes.
Anyway,
so true.
Yeah.
This is so true.
Yeah, they
so
say
what's it going to be?
When you catch it or when you grab it, you lost it already. So I think it encapsulates what we are
like
trying
the Buddha, as they say, if you see the Buddha, kill him, because it's no longer there. If someone says, I attained it, he didn't attain it because he realized it. So it's like that's the
well, it's the after second, just dealing with the after second, and that's a practice too.
Yeah. So it's the most challenging thing ever.
But that's exactly the point. So what I've been, for example, struggling with is, we're talking about policy making now, algorithmic policy making, and you're embedding this into social structures, right? Into social networks, and say we're going to engineer safe socio-technical, socioeconomic systems. But the moment basically you say this is the policy we should be implementing, is the moment where you basically manifest all your assumptions about the actors and why they have been, why they would act in a certain way, and why that policy that you chose is good, right? And then the moment you insert that policy, the system changes because it is this because it is reacting, or it is not just actor and mechanism. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So because this is what humans are, we are absolutely adapting. We see signals. Sometimes we just be lemmings, but from the point of the, and let me put it that way, in big quotation marks, algorithmic policy maker or a token engineer or anyone designing these socio-technical systems, or hoping to design them with good intentions, it's almost yeah,
but I think
is
the idea
very
is that
naive.
you should be able to make those decisions, have the consensus to choose the governance that you want. You can have from complete tyrannicals on one side to completely democratic on the other, and everything in between, and have every algorithm that works on all those systems and choose it when it's necessary at the precise condition. If there's a hurricane coming through, you will choose a totalitarian system with a very expert person, no problem. If there's something very difficult, very complex, you will choose a democratic thing, but you have to have all the tools to choose when to use it at the right time. The idea to just say, "Oh, we have one, and that's going to be the one, and that's it," it doesn't work. It has to be dynamic. So you have to focus on the dynamic part and have every single tool that we have had in our history of humanity to choose from and to apply at the right time and the right moment.
Okay.
Gotta go.
Yep.
Stay strong.
So, Sebastian, thanks. So basically, what I did was I just took notes. I mean, we had this on our to-do, and now I'm thinking we should also have a to-be list, not just a to-do list.
Yes, and what to do list, and how to be list, and how to some things list. You have to grade those categories as well. Not only the params to optimize everything, but the params to not go never ever to.
Yeah.
They
So I must say, I enjoyed this a lot, and for me, it is wonderful. Really, this one was really special, and I took some notes in the manifesto that we're supposed to be doing, and I think it's I will just share it, and I'd like to just continue work on it. That we do it together. Made some notes, and I'll just share it in the chat, and let's take it from there. I have a few ideas, maybe that needs fermenting a bit more, but I think we captured really the essence today.